Well, hello, this is Jack Sheffield, Jack the exam guy. This video is an introduction to the glass and glazing exam, the reference manuals, and the course overview. All right. So let's talk about the exam first. The exam is 85 questions. Now, you may have been told it was 80 questions, which is true, but there's also 5 pilot questions. So I want you to be aware of that. If you get to question 80 and you answer it, and 81 pops up, I don't want you to be surprised. So there is actually a total of 85 questions. Okay. And the time limit is 5 hours. Okay, so what I always like to do with these exams is I like to figure out what pace I need to be on to finish on time. So I take my 300 minutes. Let me get my pointer out here. Yeah, here we go. So I take my, well, it's not working. Let's try that. Okay, so I take my 300 minutes and I divide it by my 85 questions, and I get 3.5 minutes per question, basically. So then I take 60 minutes in an hour and I divide it by 3.5, and I know I have to do 17 questions per hour. So I kind of round that up a little bit to 20. And I say, try to pace yourself at 20 questions per hour. And what that'll do is that'll leave you, a few minutes, maybe 20 or 30 minutes at the end of the exam to go back and look at, any of them that you marked. Okay. If you haven't taken one of these computer-based exams before, they've got a little tutorial at the beginning of the exam that does not count against the time of your exam, and you can spend a few minutes playing around with it. There is a way to mark questions, okay, with the check mark, and then they give you a list, and then you can pull up a list of the ones that you checked. As you go through this exam, do not leave anything blank. If you are can't find an answer, make sure that you choose something because at least you'll get a chance to at a 25% guess. All right. If you get to the exam, at the end of the exam, and you don't have any time to go back and look at anything that you left blank, then it's automatically wrong. All right. So make sure you choose you check something on every question. Okay. So once again, you're pacing yourself at 20 questions per hour. Well, how do you know? You can't bring a watch in and so on and so forth. But there is a clock icon, and I encourage you to use it on the screen. You can click that, and it'll tell you how far you are into the exam. So watch that. 20 questions per hour. One of the biggest things that I hear from people when they don't pass the exam is time management. They ran out of time. They had 20 questions left when they only had a half hour to go, and then boom, then they start to panic. So strategy is a big part of passing this exam. So pace yourself. Now, on this exam, there will be a lot of trade knowledge and basic math questions. Okay. So hopefully your basic math. So, like, you might have several lights that are going to be in a particular opening with a particular size mullion. And so you're going to have to do some calculations that way. Most of these math questions are pretty basic. And then some of these trade knowledge questions are pretty basic. But if you've been in the field, okay, hopefully you have been, and you probably know some of this stuff. So that's really good. Okay, so let's take a look at the manuals that you have. So these are the manuals that are allowed into the exam. Okay, there are other reference materials that are suggested for study but are not allowed into the exam, and they are not covered in this course. I will explain a little bit about them before this video is over, but I don't go over them in detail in this course. All right, so the first step in answering a lookup question is knowing which manual to use. All right. Now, this overview will go a long way to ensuring your success. And also, but by the way, um, this is just going to be an overview, and you're going to, if you proceed in the course, if you decide to purchase the course, there will be a very detailed explanation of each manual. I'll be taking you through the manuals page by page, telling you what to tab and what to highlight. Now, for this particular course, for this particular exam, you're not going to need to know everything about, say, the Florida Building Code building or everything in the accessibility or in any of these manuals except for the ones that are specifically for this course. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break out each one of these manuals, like the Florida Building Code building. I am going to have a section that is specifically for glass and glazing. Okay, and then I'm going to have another section, which I'm going to take you through the entire course, the entire manual. All right. You may not need the entire manual, but if it's listed as a reference, anything in that manual is fair game. So you're going to get two sections for these manuals. You're going to get one that's kind of dedicated. Okay, this is what I really think you're going to see on this exam. And then you're going to get another section which takes you through the entire reference manual, which may or may not be something that you're going to need on the exam. So be aware of that. You may not want to watch you may want to take the time for the entire manual, but I would actually suggest you do that. Same thing. So that's going to be Florida Building Code building. All right. There's going to be a section just for the glass and glazing, and then there's going to be one. You see, I teach general contractors as well, and general contractors have to know the entire Florida Building Code building. So I have that section already made, so I provide that to you. Once again, I don't want to be too redundant here, but I will have a section in which I'm going to break out what I want you to concentrate on. Okay, same thing with accessibility. All right, accessibility, of course, if you ever get any question where they're talking about somebody that's handicapped, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about accessibility, and I'm going to explain exactly how to navigate this manual. This is going to be a little bit different than your regular building code books. Even though it says Florida Building Code building, you are going to navigate this a different way, and I'm going to explain this in the course. Okay, and then we've got this energy efficient building construction in Florida. You know, energy conservation is a big deal right now, so there's going to be some stuff. Once again, I'm going to have the whole book all the way through. There's going to be a section for the whole book, just in case you get some odd question that's doesn't particularly apply to windows, and then there's going to be a section which is going to be focused just on the windows and doors. Okay, because they've got a chapter just on windows and doors where they talk about Energy Star, which window tends to leak more. That's going to be a question that you're likely to see sometime in the near future. Almost every single one of the contractors' exams, you have to know the OSHA book, or at least you have to be able to navigate the OSHA book. And I help you with that as well. Once again, same thing. I'm going to break out some specific stuff that you may be responsible for, and then you're going to have the whole OSHA manual in another section where you can just watch the whole thing. There's going to be some things that don't apply to you, like excavations, all right? Excavation safety is obviously something that you're not going to get a question about. Okay, and then we've got here, this is the ASTM E1300-24. This is a very highly technical manual. Now, this you can bring into the exam, and I take you through this manual page by page. And I'm just going to read real quick. This practice covers the procedures to determine the load resistance of specified glass types, including the combination of glass types used in sealed insulating glass units and so forth. So this is all about load resistance and determining load resistance. I really don't expect you to get too many questions out of this, but I would definitely, if they're listing it as a reference manual, you're really going to want to take the opportunity. I've got a video which takes you completely through this manual page by page and explains how these tables are, what they mean and how to read them. And you just might get some pretty complicated questions out of that particular manual. Now, here's the big one, the Ghana glazing manual. Okay, this is the International Year of Glass edition. This isn't exactly what they tell you, the manual that you're going to use on the exam, but this is the only one you can buy now. And we didn't have a problem using this in the exam. I actually have somebody who works for me that has experience in this field, and we're going to get him a license. And he just passed the exam. So I might have gotten the inside track on a few questions that you might be looking for. Once again, the first step in answering a lookup question is knowing which manual to use. And right now, by the way, this is the big one. Once again, this is the big one, that Ghana glazing manual. You're going to get more questions out of that than anything else. And I've got a video and practice exams which take you through that manual page by page. So you're going to be familiar with this manual by the time you finish this course. Okay. It's not always necessary to have the latest edition. Okay. If you've got an older edition, say this is I think this even says 2020. Right now they're using 2023 building codes at the recording of this video, which is in November of 2025. But it doesn't matter really, probably, if you're listening to this in 2030. Okay. These things just don't change that much. The codes don't change that much. Now, the energy efficient building construction in Florida, now, right now they're using the 11th edition. And that's one that I may want to make sure I have the latest edition on, because these Energy Star ratings do change. So if you do have an older edition, as you're going through that specific section where I'm explaining, what about windows and doors for the glass and glazing, you might want to go ahead and make sure that all of your information lines up. All right. And then, of course, the OSHA manual. So anyway, there will be a detailed section on each one. So here we go. That's the manuals. And then these are the references not allowed into the exam. I thought it might just be, um, advantageous, good information, just to talk about them a little bit. I have not purchased them. I have not looked at them. But I looked at the website. This is the Fenestration, FGIA, the Fenestration and Glazing Industry Association. Um, and these are different references. I would encourage you, especially if you're going to be in this industry, I would encourage you to get involved with the FGIA. Um, they might have courses, or they may have seminars that you can go to and get continuing education credit. All right, when you get your license, you're going to have to do continuing education 14 hours every 2 years. Now, if you go online and just do the standard continuing education, that'll work. But I got to tell you, it's really kind of boring to do that. All right. And if you can actually get something that applies to your particular field, you may want to try to do some of that continuing education. Okay, so anyway, so we've got, I did pull up the costs for you. This aluminum storefront one is $70 if you're a member, 200 if you're not. I did try to find out how much, went on the website, tried to find out what it costs to become a member. I couldn't find that. It seemed like they want you to put your information in and talk to you about that. You've got this other one, this anodic finishes painted aluminum curtain walls series. This is $25 for members, 70 for non-members. And this is the installation of aluminum curtain walls, and it's $35 for members, $100 non-members. I do not believe you need these references to pass this exam. I do not encourage you to purchase them if money's an issue, but once again, if you're going to be in this field long term and be serious about being a good actor, not a bad idea to be a member of that organization and really learn all you can. All right. So there's a link here. This is a PDF of the list of manuals in the course from the state. You have there it is right there. I don't know if you can cut and paste it off the screen, or you can always go to myflorida.com on examinations and find it from there. So, all right. Well, first of all, I want to say, if you decide to purchase the course, thank you for your business. My name is Jack Sheffield. I call myself Jack the Exam Guy. I always say, don't ever let anybody tell you you don't know Jack, because now you do. There's my phone number. You can call me anytime, 904-755-4111 for the 411. And I always like to encourage you to remember to give. Okay, you're going to make a ton of money once you get your contractor's license. You're going to have so much money, you're not going to know what to do with it. So just remember those people that are a little less fortunate than you, or give to your church, or, I was poor most of my life and I didn't have enough money to give to charity. But thanks to people like you, I'm making a few bucks right now. And I always remember to give. And I've got monthly, deductions that, I give to some charities that I feel strongly about. So I encourage you to do the same. Once again, this is Jack Sheffield, Jack the Exam Guy. Don't ever let anybody tell you you don't know Jack.